Welcome back to the program. I want to talk about this article that came across my desk, which I find absolutely outrageous. Princeton is ending Latin and Greek requirements for classics because of what they're calling systemic racism. This is an absurdity. It's remarkable to me how truculent and stupid. Let's just redefine classics to mean current day. Shall we just redefine it? Because that's what they're talking about. Any classics majors don't have to take classic anything. Like they don't have to, it's so absurd. And by the way, they're doing it because they're lazy. Okay. Princeton University will no longer require students to take Latin or ancient Greek to earn a classics degree. Well, then what is the degree for? This comes as part of a larger effort by the school, quote, to address systemic racism on campus. Do you know what's amazing? If Princeton is systemically racist, they should just shut the damn thing down. Just shut it down. There's no cure for systemic racism. There's no cure. So shut it down, fire all the teachers, and turn that beautiful campus into, I don't know, a nursing home or something, a COVID recovery center. How about that? The faculty approved the elimination of the classics department's classics track, because why would you want a classics track in your classics department? And that had required every student, all their students, to have an intermediate proficiency in one of the two languages before even entering the track. But now you don't need it, but they're just getting rid of the track anyway. They also approved removing the requirement that students take either language as part of the major. Because why? Because now the term classics major or a degree in classics is meaningless. Well, but let's face it, a degree from Princeton is meaningless anyway. And any parent who spends their money sending their child to an institution like that really deserves to lose their money, which is what they're doing, and turn their child against them, which is what will happen. So, okay, I want to share with you a quick story that happened to me. I'm very troubled by this, and I was at an event, and I was chatting with some friends and some new acquaintances. And one woman brought up this idea that in her Christian school, they had hired this new Black pastor, youth pastor at the Christian school. And she asked the headmaster, why did you send out this announcement that you hired a Black pastor? Shouldn't we be colorblind? Like, why are we highlighting that? He's like, well, we think that it's important to show inclusivity or whatever. She's like, we're the church. We're the definition of inclusivity. Why are we highlighting that? And then it went on because the Black pastor apparently is woke. And so he was telling the students all about their white privilege and the fact that the whites are oppressing the Blacks all the time and all of that, right? And in fact, there was a mother that was part of the community there, and her daughter went to school there, and she's white. Her daughter's biracial. She marched down there and she said to them, how dare you teach my biracial daughter that I, as a white woman, am oppressing her? How dare you, right? So we're lamenting this, and this woman she's fighting the system, and she's like, but what is a parent to do? I want my children to go to a good Christian school. And my friend was standing next to me, and he's like, well, I know what Sam would say. Yeah, you do. You can't protect your children, apparently, even in some Christian schools. You can't shield them enough. Why would you want to expose them to that? They are malleable. They're young and impressionable. That's the definition. Why are you fighting it? Because I'm scared. Okay. Someone else who had joined the conversation came and said, oh, but you can't just encourage parents to leave the battlefield. We need to fight. We need to have parents stay and fight for their kids. And then he told his story that his daughter was at the National Cathedral School, the school attached to the National Cathedral. And he walked in there and, you're not teaching my daughter this woke nonsense. This is not allowed, and I won't stand for it, and all of that. And he got into a bit of a tussle with, I guess it was the headmistress. And at one point he finally said, but what about objective truth? The objective truth. And her answer was, we don't teach objective truth here. So that's a rejection of God. It's in my book, Words for Warriors. The truth is God. He is the truth. He said he came to testify to the truth. So when they're rejecting truth, they are rejecting God. Rest assured. And when they get you to reject the truth, they're getting you to reject God. You proceed at your own peril. So I said to this man, oh, wow, that's amazing. So you took your child out, right? He said, well, no, I mean, she was about to graduate anyway. So, but I had my say. And I said, oh, so your child finished, but nothing changed in the school. And he said, well, yeah, by and large, yeah. I said, but you're still fighting it. You're still trying to get the job done for the rest of the kids who are still in the school. And he said, no, I don't fight for other people's children. So now I'm left with this idea that I shouldn't be encouraging people to leave the schools because we should stay and fight. And we should offer our children up as sacrifices while we're trying to fight for them to not be made victims. While they're being made victims, while they are being victimized. But the guy who's telling me that I should, encourage parents to stay and fight because we need to fight, he's not staying and fighting. Does anybody else have a problem with this? Because I do. Now, I get it. If you want to stay and fight and you can win, then fight. But I still don't recommend that you leave your children in that environment because your children are being victimized even while you are fighting. Oh, yes. They will be shown a book. They will be given some language. They will be spoken to in a certain way. They will be, things will be modeled for them. Ideas will be planted in their heads. And all the while, and you can't get away from this, all the while, your authority will be undermined. Because that's the system. It cannot help but undermine your authority because it's built that way. Schools form a wedge between the child and the parent. They can also do a lot of good. Just depends on how much poop you're willing to put up with in your water, in your drinking water. That's comes from a chapter in my book, They're Your Kids. Poop in the water. Because, you're going to drink the water I serve you until I tell you there's a little bit of poop in it. Then you're going to think twice. And I'm telling you there's poop in the water in the schools now. Critical race theory. Do you want your child learning that as a white person, he or she is inherently racist? There's nothing that he or she can do about it. That is victimization in its worst form. Do you want your child learning that he or she can choose whatever gender and change their gender and get medical treatment without your approval? You think that doesn't form a wedge between the child and the parent? You think that doesn't hurt your child somehow? Your child should look up to you as a hero. It's really sad what people are going through. Okay, I just want to cover this. I've got a couple more minutes. The New York Post did this article, Fauci's emails should put an end to the cult media built around him. The trove of emails from Dr. Fauci that was released when this FOIA Act, the Freedom of Information Act, stretched to early 2020. I talked about some of them in a previous segment. The thing is that it's not just the mask. Here's the thing, because Rand Paul took on Fauci. He's basically the only guy. There might be a few others, but Rand Paul took on Fauci and said, I'm not buying everything you're selling. On the lab leak theory, Fauci and the head of the National Institutes of Health, which is Francis Collin, who headed up the Human Genome Project, they had an email exchange with the subject line, "Conspiracy gains momentum." Fauci's insisting that he's always maintained an open mind to the possibility that the virus leaked from a Chinese lab, but he didn't disclose that until this week. So he was going along with it. He was even thanked by Peter Daszak, who is affiliated with the Wuhan lab, for, quote, publicly standing up for the increasingly discredited natural origin conspiracy theory. And so this goes on to more of Senator Rand Paul. And by the way, the media just lambasted him for standing up to Fauci. On their key disagreement, whether the infection provides natural immunity, Fauci's own emails vindicate Senator Paul. He wrote, "No evidence in this regard, but you would assume that there would be substantial immunity post-infection. And yet, publicly, he said, no, we need to wear 2 masks now," even though he knew at the time that the masks were problematic and ineffective at battling the virus. In another interview, Fauci said that it is in China's best interest to be open and honest. We shouldn't take an accusatory approach to the communist regime. Shouldn't be accusatory, they write in the Post. Has the man taken leave of his senses? China has lied from day one. It is complicit in copious deaths worldwide. Fauci thinks we should play nice. That's only because he's worried about what we might discover. So the question is, are we going to hold him accountable? And that brings me to the end of my show for the day. Thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe. Trying to work on my subscribership. It's very helpful. I promise I won't bug you. So do it. Subscribe now. Right there below. Subscribe. Just hit that little button. You're done. And if you're listening on radio, thank you for being a loyal radio listener. I really appreciate you, my audience. If you want more great content and you want to support me, please go to sorbos.locals.com, because that's where I post the exclusive portions of my interviews. And there are a bunch up there that are incendiary, to say the least. So I would encourage you to go, because we ought to all be seekers of the truth. And that's what I intend to do. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.